a day's wages to buy what you can eat for a day. And like you were mentioning, all these atmospheric river floods is coming to all these different countries all over the earth, and they're destroying their crops. I've got this sneaky suspicion inside me that if they were exporters, they're probably not going to be exporting. They're probably going to be keeping it to stabilize their own people through this, let's just call it miniature famine that's probably going to be taking place in a lot of these countries.
Guess who is here? Danny King, Deep South Homestead. We talked a few years back about these changes that were coming in, and we're giving some analysis of the intensification that once it hits this point, food production will be so disrupted that governments will only be in a response mode. Like mankind's not really controlling what's going on. We're responding to it. And you can see how governments are responding to it. They're very sloppy the way they're pushing all these, I guess, this net of control over humanity in a response to what will be shortages of food. And right now, it's so in your face that it's so sloppy the way they're doing it at like a breakneck speed. Like there seems to be some sort of benchmark or year that they need to have all this completed by, because they realize that rollover point will be there. And after that point, there's no more preparation time. That is just actuation and response time to the populace when they become angry. No jobs, little money, or whatever this whole AI revolution takes us into, plus the extremes in weather. So that's what we wanted to talk about today. Before, when things were gentle, for a better term, when you'd only get 2 or 3 months worth of rain in a few hours versus a year's worth of rain in a few hours. This is kind of step up since we first started talking. We get a couple months of rain, and now we're getting a year's worth of rain in the same amount of time. So the projections are that we would get 10 years worth of rain or 5 years worth of rain in a single day. So what we've seen in Texas and India and these other places around the world, especially Nigeria, and that's nothing yet. That is literally at the lowest level bar where we're starting and where we're going to go to from a 10x from now. So just put that in perspective and see how governments might respond, because the economy is not going to hold its current state. They already understand that. That's why we're bringing in all this digital programmable money, cryptocurrency, because the old way we used to value companies and productivity and imports and exports and GDP, that's all out the window now, because the earth is doing something incredible along with cosmic rays outbound, into our solar system from 2 micronovas now out naked eye. There's just an enormous amount going on, cyclical, and we're here to talk about it. So Danny, thank you for joining me. And
yeah, I was that when David and I were talking, I was telling David, I said, look, I've kind of taken the largest part of my focus right now off of what's going on in the government, I guess per se, simply because that's totally out of my control. I have nothing, there's nothing I can do about it. And I really believe that what they're doing is not really going to have that much of an effect on what's coming. It's basically what they're doing is focusing on what's going to benefit them the most in the long run. I'm trying to now focus on what's going to affect me and my family as individuals and as a group here on our homestead. And what that encompasses now is, believe it or not, is the solar system, weather related events. And we have seen this. If you watch I don't watch the news. I will say that I do not watch the news, but they do show some events that are taking place on the earth. Now, we're not just focused on the United States here. I think David and I are pretty much on the same page on this. This is global, what we're seeing now. Everything that's happening has to do with the atmosphere that's around us. We're seeing atmospheric rivers actually being unleashed all over the earth. I mean, we're looking in other countries how that they get a year's worth of rainfall in just a matter of a couple of hours. And I was privy to sitting and listening to an individual in a seminar actually explain how these atmospheric rivers actually take place. And it's amazing as to what goes on during this. And man plays no part in this. We want to sit back and say, oh, we want to blame it on cloud seeding, and we want to, and believe me, cloud seeding, there is some truth to this, but cloud seeding can only go, according to these gentlemen, can only go maybe 9%, 10% at the most, as far as moisture creation.
The obvious question, are you on shrooms? Illuminated shrooms, combining 6 powerful mycelium in a fulvic mineral delivery system, selected for their synergistic, restorative, and protective actions. Potent organic extracts of Cordyceps for stamina, lion mane for cognition, reishi for longevity, chaga for detoxification, agaricus for resistance, nutrient-rich turkey tail, a new standard and excellent illuminated shrooms from Alfa Vedic. And please remember, ladies and gentlemen, every purchase you make helps keep this podcast on air, bringing information just like this, because we're at this critical juncture right now in our civilization, our society. We need to share information more than ever. We need more solutions than ever. And sponsors like Alfa Vedic keeping us on air just like this, your support to them helps support us, because we need to go through this together. And the more discussion, the more solutions, the easier it's going to be. So please remember, that link's in the description box below. And are you shrooming?
It can't cause an atmospheric river at this point. And I know during the Vietnam era, the United States military said they wanted to be able to control the weather by 2025, so that maybe we didn't have to go into battle into a place. We could control the weather. We could either flood somebody out, we could starve them out through drought, we could do all these kind of things with the weather. But David and I were basically, I watched David. I understand that he is really on the same page that I am in a lot of aspects. I know David, I sees things happening inside our magnetosphere. We're like, is it solar cycle 25? Has been a really tumultuous solar cycle, and we haven't seen the most of it yet. I don't believe. David may see more than what I see on this, but I don't believe we've seen the worst of it yet. I think, like he was saying with the atmospheric rivers and things like this, we are just beginning to ramp up on that. There is definitely something causing a pull on the earth. I know we're fixing to we're fixing to get another Class X solar flare here probably in the next short period of time. And we saw what happened in Russia with the earthquake we had over there. That is not over. We know that the Ring of Fire is literally fixing to just ignite, and those plates that you have there just off of Russia, the tecton plates that you have there, where the Pacific and the Asian and all these different plates come together. We've got cushioning in between those plates. There's like 1,000 miles of just ice in between those plates right there, and the magma underneath the earth at this time, is my understanding, what they're telling me, is that this magma is melting this ice away. And as they do, at some point, these plates are going to collide again. And when they do, we're looking at tremendous activity in, the Pacific realm. And not just the Pacific realm. I'm being told this could be global. This thing could actually, could be pretty global. And 8 and 9 point earthquakes would be quite common in a short period of time. Have you heard anything about this, David?
Well, the galactic cosmic rays. Now, keep in mind here, if you go back to the ancient Chinese star observers and the Magi with the Arab traditions of observing stars, and there's what they call like guest stars. In Chinese, it's called ke xing, and like ke xing, xing like a star. Now, naked eye nova, micronova, is what they're talking about. Now, one of these is enough to trigger off at that point the emperors and the dynasties at the time to what they relate as, it didn't create so much food shortages, but it created chaos amongst the people, where it created what they would almost consider like an insane period. And at that point, there was a lot of civil unrest and chaos with one. We have 2 right now in our skies that just popped up in the last less than a year. 2. So if one was enough to make emperors go, oh no, our realm's about to just get up, turned upside down. We have two, and all the extra galactic cosmic rays coming in. Our magnetic field, which you referenced there, is weakening, and there's an enormous amount of data. They took all that data offline because they didn't want to let you and me see how fastly it's really declining. So think about cosmic rays through, I don't know, umpteen peer-reviewed research papers. You can find these. There's probably more than 1,000 by now out there. Galactic cosmic rays have a definite impact on magma chambers and silica-based magma. It causes an excitation in electrical interaction and disturbance and a potentiality of electrical current through different substrate that contains crystalline structure, mainly quartzites. Now, you find an enormous amount of that in magma. So if that is going to cause greater size earthquakes, and it's also going to set off more volcanic eruptions, that could be a potential trigger for it. There's a huge amount of galactic cosmic rays coming in. Plus, we have all the Hunga Tonga moisture. Not all of it has come out of the atmosphere yet. So you have cosmic rays that are known cloud builders. Heinrich Svensmark did a huge amount of research on that. You can watch the Cloud Mystery for free. The cloud chambers, after they did the real experiments versus modeling, found that cosmic rays increased cloud cover 7 times more than was predicted through the modeling, because did the real experiments in the cloud chambers and showed the numbers. So if cosmic rays build clouds at a 7x increase of previously thought, and now we got 2 micronovas naked eye, because when the light comes here with the photons, obviously the energies come with it at the same time. So they turn on, that means the light's arriving, so is the energy with it. So we're getting a double energy input from external sources far outside our solar system, weakening magnetic field, and then our sun's behaving strangely. And we have all these extra input sources, and now there's an enormous amount of extra water vapor in the atmosphere just still cascading around. And then you start to look at, well, maybe this is one of the reasons, because cosmic rays can do both. They can build clouds and they can excite magma chambers. So then you start to look at the input, not one source, but 2 sources, but a triple source now. And you're like, oh, things are starting to add up here a little bit more cleanly if you're looking for reasons and answers.
Yeah, so I'm seeing now that because of everything that we're looking at or talking about to this point is our food. Food needs, plants. I mean, we grow everything we eat, pretty much everything we eat, with the exception we pick up a few things from Azure Standard that we just can't grow right here. And I'm beginning to see in my own growing things that are not heat-loving plants right now just do not function. I mean, they will not grow. And even some of the heat-loving plants, things like butter beans, for instance, something as simple as butter beans. Used to, you could go out there and throw them things in the ground, and you could make more butter beans than you could shake a stick at, you know. Now we have planted 3 times, and we finally, out of 3 different plantings, have got enough plants up that we can actually pick and get something to eat off of. And I believe in my own heart, and I don't have any data to back this up, but I believe that it has to do with our solar system. I'm almost 100% sure, because, I mean, ultraviolet rays are what we need in order to kill viruses here upon the earth and things like that. I'm going to call this the test run, because what you and I have been sitting here describing is actually happening now. It's going to get worse in the future. Food is even going to become even more scarce. And as food becomes scarce, now, because of let's just call it the run that they did in 2020 on mankind, they now know how people will react when they can't get what they need and they get scared. They have a better way of looking at the way the brain functions. AI now has more data. When we emerged IoT with AI, we come up with a system that literally opens the door to them being able to read mankind's thoughts a lot better than what they were able to in the past, as far as how people will react. You made mention here when you were talking a while ago about the dynasties and how that people, uh, let's just basically say, they were losing their minds back at certain points. They came to a point that there were wars during these times when the solar system did particular things and the magnetosphere was doing certain things. Men would go to war at that time because of the way their brain was functioning, the anger and things like that the brain was doing. And people don't get it, that the magnetosphere actually plays a part in your mind. I mean, your body works off of frequencies. I've been privy to speak with people in pretty high places, let's just say, as far as how the body works on frequencies. I mean, the kidney works on a certain frequency, the heart works on a certain frequency, the eye works on a certain frequency, and they now know all of this, and they can now do a better job of controlling someone by using particular frequencies. I mean, I think that the closer we get to, let's just say, quote unquote, whatever it is that's going to happen, that's going to unlock everything that needs to happen. 2030 is the deadline, is what I've been told. As far as everything has to be, how shall we say, in order by 2030, because of all the things that you and I are talking about now is coming into play. They've got to have it where they can control the situation better. I mean, what's your thoughts on that one?
Well, first thing is the internet traffic. You mentioned that earlier. You understand 51% of all internet traffic right now is bots. It's not even human driven. So half
Yes.
of what you're finding on the internet is not even human creation. It's AI and agent bot creations of, and now the technology is so good that there's more data being created. Like say in the last week when new digitization platforms come out for creating video off still imagery, they just don't even know really what is true or what not true anymore. Well, to the point where natural disasters are being reported by thousands of people online, that's different than a piece of news comes on and it gets picked up by the news feeds and run and spread around. That's something very different. Like you talked about, news is not really trustable anymore because so much of it is not even literally not real. It's just created on a screen to try to pull that, emotional response. So as this magnetosphere is weakening and the magnetic, you think about your brain, it's electrical frequency. You got the lobes in there. Now, if that's going to change, not going to get disrupted, it's going to change. Mm-hmm. So as it changes, they know which direction it's going to go based on past cycles. So if you already had like some prior knowledge of people are going to respond this direction more, you could set the precedent for that. And you're right, the parasite class, or whatever you like to call them, they're about themselves and they're setting up for continuity of government. So whenever this sweeps over humanity, much like Noah's flood, the top layer and everybody out here would be swept away, but those are the prepared or under earth or above in the, wherever they might choose to ride this out. When they come back, they'll be fully intact with their tech, but everybody else will be back to the Stone Age or back to, pioneering lifestyle of the 1850s, depending on where you are on the planet. With that kind of advantage of 150 years advanced technology on something, you're borderline magic. Because at that point, 20 years of going through something like this, a lot of people would have forgot, our internet's probably going to go down at some point. And this stopgap measure here to get us through a contracting economy as food prices rise, and that's the only thing you're going to spend money on is food because it gets so expensive. Like the entire economy is being disrupted now. They're telling you to your face, you're no longer needed. We got 50 different jobs that are outsourced as of today. Like, somebody who spent their entire life working as an interpreter, reading the books, getting the study, and then you're outsourced in seconds here by AI. The world is shifting in this direction where humanity is kind of at a disposable level for a lot of these, like I say, parasite class people. And don't kid yourself. They're not going to help you because you need food and you're hungry. They're going to thumb screw you to get you to do things because you're hungry. They're not going to be kind during this time, they're going to be vicious and dark and take advantage of the pain and the suffering that's existing out here. But, the vampires on that, energy vampires, for a better term, are going to be at the feeding trough during this period of humanity. So I'm trying to grow food. You mentioned your beans. So we had zero luck with basil this year. Usually it grows literally like a weed. We grow like 5 different kinds of basils, and it really just literally grows like a weed. We always have to trim it back. We got way too much. We always got to give it away to people. It just overgrows. Literally, you can't even walk past the sidewalk. It's growing. This year, none of them took. We got little spindly ones that barely went this big, and nothing else grew either. And same bed, same compost. We did get some mushroom compost from the Monterey Mushroom Factory that we use and stuff. But we're seeing the same thing. Although we're in the Southeast, you're a little further south than I am. But up here, peppers are off the hook this year, but then other things are not. So at what point, I used AI one time and I was asking it about rice. So I was trying to front run the FDA or USDA on asking about rice shortages across the world. So I simply did this with AI, and anybody can do it. Tell me and find the news feeds that are talking either in local or regional or countrywide for country, whatever you're looking at, rice crop losses of over 10% or over 20%. And it'll give you a whole list of, news articles for regional or local news. And then I ask it, okay, of these regions and the localities, what percentage of the country total whole is that? And then you'll get a different set of metric with that. And then I would ask it, okay, so what's the probability of the total rice loss because of all these different regions in this country? And it will give you -9%. Okay. But then you do it through every country across the globe. And I would do just like the top 20 rice producers, because there's really, once you get down into the few thousand tons of export, it's kind of doesn't really make that much of a difference. But they were looking at least 10% global losses in rice this year, at least 10%. And, I'm sure that's increased with all these floods happening across India and China again. And there's just more I did this 3 months ago, and hadn't had the tumultuous floods and extremes that a lot of countries that produce rice are experiencing right now. So, AI can help you with research, but wherever we're looking at here, it seems that crops are being lost across the planet and there's no substitute for them.
Well, the loss of food at this particular point, I believe, is going to be what drives humanity. Literally, it will be the one tool, not the financial system. I don't believe it's going to be the financial system that's going to drive humanity. Because it don't matter how much money you have, if there's no food, you're still going to get angry. I mean, even the Bible tells us that and you're going to come to a point, they're going to throw their silver and their gold into the streets, and they're going to curse it because it can't eat it. It's going to be useless. Where Revelation, it says a measure of wheat for a penny. In other words, it'll take all you can make to buy the food for a day. A day's wages to buy what you can eat for a day. And like you were mentioning, all these atmospheric river floods is coming to all these different countries all over the earth, and they're destroying their crops. I've got this sneaky suspicion inside me that if they were exporters, they're probably not going to be exporting. They're probably going to be keeping it to stabilize their own people through this, let's just call it miniature famine that's probably going to be taking place in a lot of these countries. Now, the United States is no exception. I've seen up here in, let's just call it the breadbasket of the United States. There's so much flooding going on up there. I'm actually talking to people talking about they can't get their crops in. Their crops are just sitting there. They're drowning in the fields. These derechos. David, when you and I were younger, that word didn't even exist.
You might have a one windstorm every couple seasons that would be, localized, but now it's from Canada down halfway through the lower 48 is one continuous line of 100-mile-an-hour winds going prime crop maturation time, and then that gets bent over and broken. Does it come back?
No, it doesn't come back. And then not only that, they've begun to name the winter storms. That's something we used to never hear when we were younger. And when I say younger, I'm talking 15, 20 years ago, maybe, these things just did not happen. Literally, I mean, and I'm even being told at this point that hurricanes are fixed to be changed over to hypercanes because the way that the ocean current and temperature of the ocean is heating up. These storms, when they blow up out there, they're just going to become beyond control because of the ocean temperatures, and that's what is that? The magma running, on the bottom of the ocean floors. I mean, we actually had. I saw a how to word this. I actually let me just put it this way. I saw something over where the earthquake happened in Russia. There were creatures. Let's just use the word creatures that came from deep, deep, deep into the ocean. That came all the way to the surface, literally because deep down under the ocean where they live at a certain temperature, the ocean heated up down there to the point where these creatures just they come to the surface trying to get away from the heat. Things that we've never seen these kind of creatures before. There's things down there that stay down there. It doesn't come to the surface very often. And I believe that with what's going on with the atmosphere, the food. You mentioned the Noah's flood a while ago. A thought popped into my head as you said that the Bible says they knew not till it took them away. Now, that phrase right there, it wasn't that they didn't know, because they were told constantly by Noah and others that it was going to flood. They saw him building an ark. It was a simple fact. They did not believe that it would happen. And I think, David, that's where we're at today, is people just honestly think we're too big to fail. They think all the food comes from the grocery stores. They don't take one thought of weather-related events, how that plays into food, into farming. I mean, that's the way I see it. I mean, I could be 100% wrong, but I don't think I am.
Well, I saw some people that were comparing food prices from 4 years ago because they went back in and they bought something like a sparkly water called Bubbly, and it comes in it comes in a 10-pack. And they're like, I can't believe the price on that. So they went back and they looked at some of their older orders that they'd done some online ordering, and they found pretty much the same items that they'd bought, and they added it all up. So think about that same price rise again in another 2 to 3 years. I mean, we're already at the edge of people complaining and getting, shoplifting in stores is becoming a thing. Mm-hmm. And really, can you blame somebody who's hungry for shoplifting food? There's borderline there. It just depends if they have the money or not. But if can you blame somebody for stealing food to feed their kids? We're at that point already. So as it gets higher and things go higher in price and there's more jobs taken away by AI and people, can't exist on the system that we're given is government handouts to people or assistance. At some point, they're going to have to go to buying bulk foods only and preparing home cooked meals. But once that runs its gamut also, and those, big bins of whatever kind of grain you would buy by the pound in the bags, once that starts to go low too, I'm still very sure that a lot of this track and trace digital programmable money is tied to digital rationing cards inbound. And perhaps your score will also determine the quality of the food you're allowed to purchase. Because I know I was watching this just insane machinery review of, there's a weed killer robot that can go out into a field. It can catalog 4 million different individual stalks of a field in a 1 acre, or was it 1.5? Maybe it was 1 hectare. They cataloged all 4 million of the stalks of the plants were coming up, and they had graded it into poor, good, very good, and excellent quality because the range of quality within the field itself. And then it zapped all the weeds with lasers and killed all the weeds as it was going through. So think about that for a second. And then what if your social credit scores, and then that they earmark the poor quality of the field for you because your score is lower. Because we're at the point right now where if you, let's just call it an acre instead of a hectare, but they're able to go within that acre and move that in different ranges of the quality of the, let's say, wheat in that field. So would they not divide it in? And also when we come up to autonomous harvesting, perhaps the technology is there and the running cost will be there where they can go in and pluck out all the very good or excellent quality first on an individual basis, where I know they've been working on this type of technology to go in and spread harvest depending on the quality, where they'll rip through a field and pull all the good stuff out. Then they'll go through and get the good stuff out. Then they'll finally machine or mechanical harvest the bad food at the end. So who determines who gets that quality of the best foods then? This is where the marks come in. If you don't accept the mark of the beast, then what type of food do you think you'll be allowed to purchase? If you're not going to even interact in the system, do you think they're going to give you something quality out of the system? That's another thing to think about, pulling back and not spending money, or versus what you're allowed to purchase if food gets lean, and what types of quality of it. And that's where my whole research has been going down, how they can determine levels of quality now in a field, and then the harvesting that they're trying to do with AI out of that. So this is the whole next chapter of food production, is that in itself.